Everybody walking to the beat. Everybody come along with me. Ba, 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 ba. All over the world. Well, I figured I would show what actually goes into filming this shit because many steps are involved. I also just got home from an influencer event and I'm not sober, but I'm not drunk. But I even told people there, I was like, yeah, I'm gonna go home and film Instagram content. Nope, this is YouTube. I'm gonna go home and film YouTube content. And they were like, wow, okay. So they all thought it was a great idea too. If you don't know me, I'm Justin Schuman, and we have a lot of fun here on this channel, so you might wanna hit subscribe right now, even before we get into it. I will also be totally honest, sometimes I show up to the camera to record for YouTube, that's the platform we're on, and I don't even know what I'm gonna talk about, but I have a sense, right? Because I just pull ideas from my gut or my brain, or my heart, boom, 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 boom. But tonight, I was like, I wanna talk about what just transpired because I was at an influencer event, right? And these events can be very interesting depending on the type of event, the person who invited you, the size, the space, the purpose. Because some of these events are really like, we want you to come and we want you to take as much content as possible. We're gonna make it super grammable, take pictures, take videos. We're gonna set up lights. We're gonna have activations, which basically just means like brands coming in to like do the thing that they do, but like there. This was not like that. This was actually a really lovely, small, invited group of people who have similar enough interests in the creator and actually this was like beauty, health, wellness space that we could overlap and talk and network, but it wasn't so that we could sell a product for them, right? So I met a lot of amazing people. Tonight was actually a really, really nice event. Plus there was a little open bar and there were past hors d'oeuvres and like, I love when they wine and dine us. Also thirsty, right? Because like, if you drink, you should hydrate. Also, that was Xanadu, the musical starring Cheyenne Jackson and Carrie Butler based on the Olivia Newton-John, May She Rest movie, I think from the 80s, like a famous cult classic because it was so terrible. I saw the Broadway musical before I ever saw the movie and I loved the show. And then actually pretty recently I saw the movie and I was like, wow, this is fucking bad. But the musical is amazing. I love satire, I love smart comedy. Xanadu, smart comedy. Okay, so let's get into this because I actually wanna talk about going to events like this, right? I'm very comfortable going to networking things or parties or whatever, mostly because I hate small talk. And you might be like, wait, that makes no sense to me. Why do you like going to these things if you hate small talk? Well, I just insist on not doing it, right? Like I think that pleasantries are great and initial intros have to be made. There's only really ice to be broken if you decide that there's ice. Now, I don't mean sort of diving headfirst into conversation if somebody's not comfortable with it, clearly, right? But I do also mean sort of assuming that there is some sort of comfort and familiarity there that you can ask questions and be present with that person and really be in conversation with them while you're there as opposed to like looking around the room and already planning your next meet. Because so many times when I'm at events like this, I'm like, hello, hi, 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 hi. We're talking right now. Although I see your eyes darting everywhere, which drives me fucking crazy at these events or also in life. Like if I'm talking to you, be with me for a second. I'm not gonna keep you forever, okay? So I figured I could maybe do a video on 3 of the ways that I proceed into group events because I can tell that that's an awkward space for some, but I think it's because you're making it harder on yourself than you need it to be. And this is especially for my folks who are like praying that there's a bar and they can socially lubricate with alcohol. And I chose to drink some champagne tonight, but I actually went to the event thinking I wasn't even going to, but I walked in and he was like, would you like champagne, sir? And I was like, I don't turn down champagne, typically. However, I wasn't even gonna drink, but I don't need to drink to be at these kind of events. Sometimes I enjoy it. Look, so I had 3 or 4 flutes of champagne. It was good champagne. So let's talk about 3 tips that I have if you're going to enter into a group communal space, a party, an event, a networking thing for your office, and you typically feel like you're the most awkward person there and you don't really know how to navigate, okay? I'm gonna refer to my phone because I took some notes on the subway ride home. I already knew I was gonna do this, y'all. I know I said I wasn't sure what I was gonna talk about, but I had a sense. We prepare here in this house, in the house of Schuman, 3 ways into conversation at events. A planner he is. So the first way is so simple and it boggles my mind when people do not do this. Remember people's names. It is so simple. I was speaking tonight to a woman named Lindsay, and then this woman named Allie walked over, and she walked over and I said, Allie, right? And she was bowled over that I remembered her name, and we had met once at the very beginning of the evening, and I made sure that Allie knew Lindsay, and then the 3 of us were talking, and then we went over to another group, and we saw Jihan, and we saw Stacy, and I was like saying people's names, and they were shocked that I remembered them. Now, this is always very interesting to me, right? Because I'm a person for whom, and if you've watched my TEDx talk, I've talked about this and that, I always felt like my name, Justin Schuman, was very forgettable. I don't know, I literally blamed the name itself, Justin Schuman. I felt like if it was something like Jason, or if it was Justin Max, which is my middle name, and it was revealed to me when I thought that that was gonna maybe be my performer name, like my Broadway name, that it sounds like a porn star name, especially because I was like, it'll be Max with 2 X's. But I was like 9 years old and I didn't know, and then the world told me and I was like, so I always felt like my name was very forgettable. A very truncated version of this is I learned that my name wasn't forgettable, but I was giving my power away to other people to forget my name and then make me feel like that was a reflection of my identity. But I learned that I'm only as forgettable as I allow someone to make me feel. But clearly I'm not the only person in the world who ever felt like this, because all of these people tonight were like, oh my God, you're so good with names. And I'm like, I listened. And yes, I retained like the first 6 names that I got, and then I met a lot of other people, and fine, you can't maybe retain 18 new names in a night, but like maybe you can. So a couple of tips for this. I try to use somebody's name as soon as they say it in a logical way, right? It's not like you're gonna introduce yourself to me and be like, oh, Kathy, right? That's very like House Bunny, Kathy. My Anna Faris needs work. Is this where I go back and revisit The Grinch? Dinner with me, you can't cancel that again. Dinner with me. Okay, so that's something we do here. I keep trying to get my Grinch impression down, if you will. Like, if you see like 2 videos ago, it's an inside joke. You should subscribe. So I do try to use it early on, right? So if I meet someone named Jillian, I might say like, that's so amazing. So Jillian, tell me like, what do you do exactly at this marketing firm? I would love to know. I just try to use their name. First of all, they won't actually think it's weird. If anything, they'll think it's a real kindness that you're choosing to use their name. Second of all, it's a really powerful thing to use somebody's name, because I think that we are just, like I said before, so used to walking through our lives almost nameless and hidden and not seen. Just remembering people's names is such a beautiful way into conversation with them, because it does some of that ice breaking for you, because you already come across as generous and a good listener, and it's so easy. They've only got one of them, right? And especially if it's not terribly easy for you to pronounce, asking somebody how to say their name or how they prefer that it's said, like there's so many ways into conversations with people. I'm also gonna take a second to say that I think pronouns are really sexy, right? In the sense that if there's no like name tags or something, I am really big on not assuming someone's gender identity just because I feel like they present as female. I'm not gonna assume that their pronouns are she, her. Now, I won't necessarily be like, oh great, and your pronouns are? Unless I'm like genuinely feel like I'm in the place where I would like to check in with them. It's never an awkward question. And I think, look, it's 2023, we should be hyper respectful of other people's identities and their spaces and how they choose to be in a conversation with other people. So I think it's totally appropriate to ask. I also think if you have name tags, it's a great thing to write Justin Schuman, he, him, his. That's just me, right? I know that some people, even watching this, might be like, that's so overkill, I would never think to do that. That's totally fine. It's a me thing. I try to be hyper respectful because I know that if my pronouns were other than what I seemingly present to society, I would want people to respect those and not misgender me regularly, right? So names, pronouns, just getting the basics and using them confidently. I think it's so cool when somebody later in a conversation is like, yeah, so Stacy was mentioning earlier when she didn't say it in a long time. It's just you look really fucking present. And it's a really cool thing that so few people focus on. So ask people's names and then go out of your way to remember them. Okay? Another great trick too is if you really hit it off with somebody, grab their contact information. Don't do one of these like, I'll follow you on Instagram, because like absolutely, and you totally could, but you know what's never a wrong thing to do? Hey, can I grab your information? Pull up your contacts, open your phone, and hand it to them. If it's a yes, right? If it's consensual, I don't think you should be going around grabbing people's numbers if they don't want to give it to you. But it's an extension of that, hey, I'm really investing and leaning into this meeting of you tonight. I really enjoyed you. I would love to maybe continue this conversation after. Can I grab your contact information? I'm almost always down because I think that investing in relationships is so fucking precious. Okay, so I know I went into the names thing like extensively, so let's check point 2. Point 2 is ask good questions. Now, this sounds incredibly subjective, right? What is a good question? What is a bad question? There are no good or bad questions. It's just you have to make a choice about how deep you want to get into it with somebody that you just met, right? So it might not be like, oh my gosh, hey, Brett, how's your relationship with your mom? Okay, so we're probably not gonna go there first, right? But you could say, hey Brett, so it's so nice to meet you. Where in the city do you live? Or do you live in the city, right? I'm in New York City, so that would make sense here. I also might say, so what do you do for work? Oh, that's so cool. Do you love it? Does it make you happy? Like, does it make you happy? A question that people wouldn't typically think to ask, but not something that's actually so life-threatening, but it does start to test the waters a little bit, right? I asked somebody tonight, I said, oh my gosh, that's so cool that you do that. Do you find it fulfilling? Do you love it? And it took her off guard a little bit. And then she said, I I actually do. I really love it. I founded the company, so this is an extension of my passion. And it was so clear to me that like either no one had asked her that question recently or ever. So that's a real gift you can give to somebody by asking them a very specific question that maybe no one's asked them in a long time. And it doesn't mean that you have to pry. A good question is just, how would I say this? First of all, a good question is something that you actually want to know. Now that sounds very obvious, but it's not, oh, so where did you grow up? When you could give two shits, right? Ask the things that you're genuinely curious about. It might also feel like a non sequitur, but don't be concerned with what people are thinking about you in the way that you proceed forward in conversation. Just follow your natural impulses. I am a question asker. I love getting right into it with people. And you might be watching this and be like, yeah, well, that's fine for you, Justin, but I'm not okay with that. Okay, so what are some things that you can always ask? Well, where are you from originally? Oh, cool, is your family still there? Nice, did you stay there for college? Did you go to college? Where did you, oh, you traveled, cool. Do you travel a lot now? Do you really love to travel? Oh, that's so neat. What are some other passions of yours? Do you have time to pursue those things? Just be present and ask things. Be genuinely interested. I think that's probably the difference between a good question and a bad question, is there genuine interest that fuels the ask. You are interested in something about this person. Ask them. And ask many questions. Honestly, sometimes I'll be in conversation with somebody who I'm like, oh, they don't really want to be here with me doing this in this moment. And then I ask them a few really good questions and immediately that changes. They're all of a sudden so invested in their time there with me because I am making them feel valued as a person merely by asking them things about them. I'm not making the conversation about me. I'm saying, hey, I'm here and I would love to learn more about you. That's a real gift. There's generosity in there. And I'm gonna liken this back to content creation sometimes because y'all know I talk about content creation a ton. It's when we show up in our content with this spirit of generosity, the same spirit, where we're either offering value for our audience or somewhere in that piece, we're asking a real question of them. I'm not just talking a call to action for call to action purposes. I'm talking about something you genuinely wanna know. I'll make pieces all the time and I'm like, I don't know, does anyone resonate with that? Does anyone feel that? And I'm sort of just opening the floor and saying, hey, I'm just trying to do a sense check here. Are you with me? And then oftentimes, without even being explicit about it, people will jump into the comments and participate with me because I asked a question that they felt like answering. So asking good questions is a way to immediately bypass small talk because you're not just doing the, also, very simple small talk questions can be good questions if you actually propel them with interest. Oh, so what do you do? Oh, cool. Are you super busy with that? Like, what the fuck? Honestly, sometimes it's just enough to actually inhabit the question you're asking when you ask it. Am I saying to act a little bit? Yes, but y'all know what I feel about authenticity. It's just about dialing up those aspects of yourself purposefully when you want to, right? So I'm gonna dial up my curiosity and my interest in this moment. So what do you do? Oh my gosh, that's so cool. Have you been there long? Like, did it take you a long time? Did you have to climb a ladder to get to that position, or was that sort of the way you entered in at the company? Oh my gosh. So you manage a team of how many people? It's just about the intention with which you show up to the thing. And that is like life, right? It's about the intention you show up to that room. It's the intention you show up with to that content piece. It's the intention you show up with to that conversation in that relationship with that it's the intention. Are you actually putting some sincere energy and purpose behind the thing? That's what makes a good question. And let's see what else is on the list. The third thing, this is a good one. And this is a good one for life in general. You're gonna hate this, but I need you to be a little more okay with silence. Now, why do you hate that? You hate that because in a conversation with a new person, or you're standing in a trio or a quartet, all of a sudden there's gonna be this moment where we're all talking, we're all laughing, and then no one says anything. It's not clear where sort of the ball of energy landed for the conversation to go next. I promise you, if you don't comment on the silence and you just stand there for a second, someone will say something. It might even be you, but you'll feel like if you just let the awkwardness of that silence pass, a question will come up for you, or a statement, or you will talk about how you're feeling in that moment, or you'll talk about something that's happened at the party. You will find something to say if you ignore the impulse to comment on the fact that there's silence. Silences are only ever awkward if we endow them as such. It's why people always say like the mark of a really good or comfortable relationship is that you can be with another person in complete silence and remain completely comfortable. Because it's when two people feel like they're not comfortable with each other, or two or more people, that they need to fill the silence with noise. Otherwise, if we're completely quiet around each other, what might you see about me? If I'm not filling the air with words, what might I unintentionally reveal that would allow you to see me in a way that I'm not yet comfortable with you seeing me? And that's why silence is such a beautiful thing when you share it with somebody you're really comfortable with, because it's like, I don't really care. You can see whatever parts of me. So there were times today where I was standing in a trio and a conversation would sort of naturally arrest and come to a stop. And you know what? Something else would start. Somebody else would walk into the conversation, or the ball would be picked back up and we would start a new conversation. Those like literally second and a half or 2 seconds where there's silence will always feel so much longer than they really are in life. And it is so fucking cool when you can be the one person in the group who's just like so chill with it. You're holding your champagne, you take a sip, or you just stand there and you look around and you say something. You make another observation. You ask another good question. You use someone's name and you ask them if they know anybody else at the party. Or you say, hey, I've told you a little bit about myself. Is there anyone here you think I need to meet? I would love to meet somebody that means something to you. There are so many ways to show up genuinely. And I wrote about this a little bit in an Instagram post the other day. Being yourself, that god-awful advice that I talk about all the time, because if you have no real access to the you and yourself, how the fuck are you supposed to do that? And we get lost in the cycle of who am I, who am I? Being yourself is actually pretty simple. When it becomes difficult is when you allow sort of the ego, the thing that's trying to keep you small and safe and invisible, to be louder than the impulses you feel to just show up and reveal. And I feel like that's what I did tonight, right? I was the only guy in a room full of women, and now that never bothers me, but it did make me feel a little bit singular, but like I fucking thrive on that. And I would share that, I've been on Broadway and I started this business and I jumped on TikTok and I grew it to this thing and now I'm on YouTube and now I'm doing all these things and blah, 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 blah. I was very proud to share some of my accomplishments because it was clear that people wanted to hear about them. And once I shared and they knew more about me, they were more part of my story and even more invested. And then I got to return the favor by asking them some really good questions and by being invested in them and their story. So the next time you have to go to a group thing, or you choose to go, right? Because if you really feel out of obligation, you have to go to something, setting boundaries is something that we talk about. I did a people-pleasing video probably a week or two ago. It's good to set boundaries too, right? Say no when you really don't want to go to something. But if you end up at something that maybe you weren't super keen to go to in the beginning and you have to for some reason, or it's an event that you're really looking forward to but you get nervous at the last second, just remember that when you walk into that room, whether there's a bar or not, or whether you drink or not, totally inconsequential, you're walking into that room and you have all of the tools that you need to make an incredible, indelible splash on that event and on the people there just by being you. I promise you. But remember that. I can make a splash as myself. I am enough as myself. I've got some good questions to ask, just me to them. I'm always here telling you that you, in all capacities, are enough. In a job interview, on a date, when you make content, watching this video right now, even just receiving what I'm sharing with you, you're good. You're totally good. At any one moment, you are doing the best you can with the resources you have available to you. So as long as you're doing your best, you're doing your best. And I'm always going to be here reminding you of that. Like I said, I'm Justin Schuman, and I hope over the last several videos, because we're really starting to get into a groove with this YouTube thing, I'm trying my best, y'all. I've been traveling. I was just in Mexico City this past weekend. I'm about to go to Japan, so I'm trying to get some videos in. I'm trying to be here regularly because being here means a lot to me. Because building a relationship with all of you means a lot to me. And maybe you're actually gonna watch this video months from now, and I'll have really grown this thing, hopefully, and you'll be like, wow, that's where he started. Yes, this is where I started, with one big old light changing the setup every so often. I'm doing the best I can with the resources I have available to me in any given moment. And honestly, that's all I expect from you. And that's all I ask. So I'm Justin Schuman. I'm showing up here all the time, encouraging you to take up more space in your life, maybe by practicing using storytelling, content creation, social media, writing, sharing your thoughts and ideas with others as a way to take up more space. I'm here for you anytime you need me. Give me a like, give me a subscribe, and I'll see you again real soon.